Silver prices continued to find their slow trudge higher. After touching the near the 200-day moving average back on December 9th, way back then, silver prices have crept higher, 6 consecutive sessions higher, and we start to see now that there may be a little trend forming. Last week was all about Fed meetings and all about trade and a lot of letdown perhaps this week, but we didn't see that on Monday. We saw silver prices continue to creep higher ever so slowly, hopefully trying to catch up to its bigger brother gold, which has obviously seen a much more wider, volatile, higher trade over the last several years, going back even to 2008. But taking us back to today, we've just seen this slow and steady march, despite the fact that we have positive trade news, despite the fact that equities are making all new time highs, despite the fact that rates are even creeping higher. Silver continues to go higher, and it's not a short cover rally, so we'll talk about later in the positioning. So right now, seeing a little bit of bullish momentum, something that we haven't seen a whole lot of. We did get the spike higher back in September, but it's really been kind of a slow trade lower since then, and now things are starting to form a bit of a base north of 17 for the first time in over a week. And, you know, at this point, it seems to me we can continue to crawl into year end this way unless there's any major shift in the fundamentals or the technicals. But right now, the technicals are telling you that silver is building a bullish base. If you look at the dollar for any explanation for why we saw a move higher over the last 6 days, the dollar's seen a very volatile trade. Obviously, last week was bigger than most. Central bank meetings, trade talks, back and forth, and so it got its sea legs back under it towards the end of the week and today, but aren't seeing any major moves back to retrace those levels that we saw prior to the FOMC meeting. So at this point, the dollar not really having as much an effect on the commodities in general, especially silver, as it was higher as well. Dollar higher, silver higher. Usually they don't move in tandem like that. So again, but one day doesn't make a trend, and I think at this point the dollar's going to have its hands full after the first of the year when you talk about the Fed, when you talk about the economy, when you talk about the Chinese and the elections and all that down the road. Dollar's going to have a lot more wider volatile days than will silver, but today they were moving up together. And lastly, the positioning. Let's look at where the CFTC has told us. Well, the CFTC told us that the spec longs remain long. There was some modest exiting going back to the middle of November towards the last week's mark. But at this point, we aren't seeing it in price action. And while we did see a modest exit of longs, they still remain near, and I said near, not on, but near 5-year highs. So the speculators remain to hold on to those positions, likely for whether it's because silver is very cheap to gold, whether it is because you do have year-end and the year-end turn coming, whether it's equities on all-time highs and the fear of some kind of a need for a hedge and the unlikely turn that could happen in equities, or it just could be that silver is a good place to hold right now, given the fact that it just hit its 200-day moving average, given the fact that it's starting to see a little bullish momentum, and given the fact that gold right now is struggling to trade outside of its current range. We've seen gold all over the map, but right now gold can't seem to get back to that 1,500 mark. And I think at this point right now, you may be seeing some of that money, maybe not going back into gold, maybe going into silver, looking for a way for that gold-silver spread ratio to narrow a bit as it has widened over the years. So at this point, silver right now, not saying it's going to go up overnight, not saying it's going to go back to its all-time highs, but at this point we are starting to see a technical bullish base being built, something we haven't seen in silver in a long time. So keep an eye on silver right now, north of 17 and likely going higher.